Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys another episode of Meta Monday. So today we're going to be going over the last week's meta, talking about what the meta looks like now. I think it's the first full week of the new patch and of the new season, where we actually have a full week's worth of data, which is really nice. So we get to see after the week settled how things are going. I know last week the meta was kind of dominated by a bunch of Ionia decks like Nami TF Ionia, Nami TF Shadow Isles, Kenneth Ezreal were doing really well. So now weeks gone by, the meta's been able to shift. We've had a bunch of some brand new decks show up, and let's see how things kind of shook out. But before we get into the Meta Monday, I wanted to remind you guys that 68% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. So if you guys could do me a huge favor, click that subscribe button, leave a comment down for the YouTube algorithm, all that jazz. Join my Discord. It's the #1 place for LoR competitive content. So if you're trying to get into competitive LoR, just wanting to grind, climb, all that type of stuff, my Discord is most certainly the place to be. The link is going to be in the description down below. But that's it. So let's get into the video now. Let's get into the Meta Monday. So #1 most played deck in Masters ladder right now is Pirate. Surprise. No surprise at all. It's definitely Pirates. I think it's actually one of the highest win rate decks also, which we'll get to at the end. But I think it's the second highest win rate deck in top 8 at least. 54.4. This is 54.8. Yeah, so second highest win rate deck in top 8 here. Very solid mid-range Pirates decks. We got Flying Fish doing extremely well on a bunch of 80% win rate players on this deck. Deck is really good. Here we go. This is what I guess the most played deck list is playing, a Slippery Wave Rider now instead of Make It Rains. Don't play this version. I think this version is really bad. Oops, no, go back. No! Runeterra stats! Why you do this to me? Okay. So, yeah. So what if we clicked on just like this? There we go. Yeah, so you see here, like, Flying Fish is not playing that version. Let's see, the #1 player is not playing that version. #3 player is not playing that version. #4 player is not playing that version. #5 player is not playing that version. So don't play this version. Slippery Wave Rider is a horrible card. Like, I don't know why people, I know why people are playing it, because somebody put on Twitter that they have a really good win rate with it, but this card is horrible. This card is like just really bad. Don't play it. Make It Rain is so much better than this card in so many situations. Like, Make It Rain can single-handedly win you games sometimes, whereas this card is like at best a decimate like everyone against decks that you're probably already winning against. Yeah, so this is another thing I wanted to point out to you guys. Whenever you're taking decks off of this website, off of Runeterra.Ar, links always in the description also. Whenever you're taking decks off of this website to play and you're looking at the stats, sometimes instead of just taking the show deck, copy paste, go and look at the players that are doing the best and copy their list. If you notice, like I said, like this deck list isn't really good. Like, it's playing Hired Guns, it's playing a Slippery Wave Rider, but you see all these players here with 80+% win rate are all playing almost exactly the same list, with a little bit of a few changes here and there, but for the most part it's the same list. Just play the list that the players are playing that are doing well. I don't really know how they get this list, if this is just like the most played list. I'm not really sure how they get this list, but I would just copy the list of the players that do really well. Deck #2, Gwen Katarina. Look at that, Mr. Pat up at rank 1, best Gwen Katarina player in the world, apparently. Good for him. I recently just hit Masters with not just hit Masters, I just hit rank 1 with this deck, and it's been doing pretty well for me. I really like it. That's I guess again the most played. This is what Pat's been playing. He's on just like triple Blade Squire, or 2 Blade Squires. So this is definitely more like 1-drop oriented, making sure that he doesn't lose to aggro, because we saw Pirates is doing really well. So it has played a lot. So you're in like playing 5 1-drops and House Spider. Here you got, the same Hate Spikes, Vile Feast, all that type of jazz. So they just took the flex spot out of the like Frenzied Skitterer and put it in, and the second House Spider put in some 1-drops here, which is fine, because sometimes the Blade Squire, it does the same thing that Hookmaster does for you, where it gives you a Reforge, so it can either give you Overwhelm or Quick Attack, and if you get Overwhelm on Gwen, you're really happy, and if you get Quick Attack on your Eternal Dancers, it helps you go infinite with your Ruined Reckoners or your Katarina, coming back from Eternal Dancers, because your opponent can never actually block and kill it. They'll have to have an actual kill spell. Yeah, so Red Gwen Katarina, whatever you want to call it, doing pretty good. I have a full in-depth deck guide. This link is on the last video on my channel, so if you're interested in this deck and interested in how to master it, I did use this deck to hit rank 1 on North America server, the America server. So if you're interested in that, go check out that video and learn how to play the deck. Number 3 coming in, Kenneth Ezreal. So it's dropped quite a bit. It was the most played, now it's the 3rd most played, and the win rate's kind of, you know, sitting here chilling at 55%. We got Volity, I don't care, Push P all doing really well with the deck, all above 80% win rate. So that's how you know a deck's good. What were these again? Almost all 80%. So 2 80%, and then the other ones were just under. So that's how you know a deck is really good. By the way, it's kind of a tangent. If you're trying to decide whether a deck is really good or if just like a player is really good with the deck, is to see what the other, how many people are also having success with the deck. Because for instance, if you look at like, let's look at something, for example, just one thing, for example, let's see if I can find it. So Mono Viego, if you look at Mono Viego, you have like the best player on this deck is Prodigy. The 67% win rate. Now, a 67% win rate is most certainly not bad. You know, it's definitely not the greatest, but it's not bad. But he thinks this deck is really strong, and he thinks the deck is really good, and he has a 67% win rate. And then nobody behind him is even close to that. This guy has 60%, and then it goes all the way down to 55%. So the top 4 players, only one of them has above a 65% win rate. Only 2 of them have a 60% win rate or above. Compared to these good decks up here, which are the top 3, you see here, boom, everybody has 80% win rate. Boom, like 78% win rate. So, you know, 2% off. And then Kenneth Ezreal, literally all of them have over an 80% win rate. You know, so that's how you know a deck is good compared to just like one person carrying the deck, is if multiple people can get ridiculous win rates on the deck, because the deck just hands you free wins and you're not having to work 20 times as hard for just a win, you know? But that was just a micro tangent if you're trying to figure out if a deck is actually good or if it's just one player being good on the deck. See how many people around them are also having that success. Yeah, so let's look at the Kindred Ezreal deck that's doing the best right now. Yeah, it's just still just Kennen, or still just Ezreal's the PNG. Everything else is Ionia, Wayfinders, all that jazz. 2 Gruesome Theaters. I don't really like this card. I know some people take this card out for a couple of Tasty Faithfolk because it helps your aggro matchup. I could see that. That's the version I've been playing. Yeah, so he has those like Tasty Faithful kids. Doesn't play any Gruesomes. Plays Tasty. Plays I think a 3rd copy of normal Hoko or 2nd copy of Palm or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think Kenneth Ezreal is still extremely strong. I still think it's the best deck in the game. I think people are just targeting it so very hard that the win rate is going down. On top of the fact that it's being played quite a bit. So it's not like the easiest deck to play, and people are just hard targeting with like scouts came into meta. Like people are legitimately playing what is it called, Targon's Peak to counter it. Like people are playing like monkeys to counter. Like all these aggro decks, obviously it has a bad matchup into pirates, which is extremely popular. You know, so like a lot of decks are hard countering it right now, which is why I think the win rate's kind of lower and the play rate's lower, because it's easier to target something like this than it is to play it most of the time for the average player. Deck number 4 is Kindred Nasus. So Kindred Nasus, still sub 50% win rate. We'll call that 50% win rate. I mean, it's 49.99, right? It's like literally that's basically 50% win rate. So here we got Dave Bow, who recently hit rank 1 with us on America's Ladder. We got Cup is Mine, a runner-up in the previous NA seasonal or America seasonal. So yeah, pretty good deck, Kindred Nasus. I know it looked really bad last week. I think people were just kind of figuring it out and trying to figure out what the Kennen Ezreal matchup is. Well, now the Kennen Ezreal is kind of on the down low and not being played nearly as much. This deck can kind of farm the Gwen farm every other mid-range deck, and then you just like pray that you beat pirates, that they don't get like a nutty draw. And then if Pirates doesn't get a nutty draw, or you know the pirate player plays poorly, then you can for sure beat the pirate player. And then yeah, that's looks really good here. So this deck is very overall good. The only thing is that let me see what it says for matchup charts, because I know, yeah, you're not very good until the like Ionia decks like Kenneth Ezreal. You're also not good into pirates, but you beat like literally everything else. Like you're really good into everything that's not exactly Kenneth Ezreal and pirates, but of course that's going to be, you know, 13% of your meta right there. Number 5, Viego Evelyn. So Viego Evelyn, coming in at number 5. Nothing too special about this deck. Look at the number 1 player on it. I think this deck is probably just like worse Kindred Nasus or worse Mono Viego. I think the Evelyn package is just pretty not great. I think if your opponent can deal with the Husk when you're Evelyn, or before they Evelyn comes down, then you're just really screwed. And this is just going to be a lot less consistent than Mono Viego, because in Mono Viego you get to play Shurima and you get to guaranteed fetch out your champion, whereas in this version you can't, which makes it less consistent. And if you don't draw Viego, this deck is basically really bad. And if that's the case, why not just play Shurima, where you can guarantee draw your Viego almost every game. Number 6 coming in is Ionia Nami, Ionia Nami, Twisted Fate. So this deck is considered by a lot of people to be like the second best deck in the format. The only thing is that it's pretty difficult to play, but I've heard a lot of people say this is easily right behind Ezreal Kennen as the best deck in the format. We got Easy to Win playing it, Pep playing it. At least I got to see, I think this guy hit rank 1 in NA as well. All these players extremely well versed with this deck. They've played it a lot, and yeah, I know like Easy, for instance, has said this deck is the best deck in the game, right behind Kennen Ezreal. So they said like if Kennen Ezreal gets nerfed, they just play Nami, and then there you go, you have the best deck in the game. Which, you know, I don't not believe them. It's just gonna take a while for me to learn the deck. But if you want to learn the deck, if you want to invest time, I don't really see this deck getting hit by any nerfs. Really, like, I don't really know what you could nerf about this deck that would make sense. Like, Nami isn't too much of a threat, and in all honesty, I think everything else is just kind of overshadowing the fact that Nami is still this broken champion that's gonna go untouched, unless they just do some big nerf to like Homecoming or Ionia package somehow. Then I don't see this deck getting nerfed, and this is probably going to be the best deck in the format, best deck in the game after patch. So whenever the patch happens, and if this deck doesn't get touched, you're gonna hear it here. Oh my god, that's hard to say. You're gonna hear it here first. TF Nami is going to become the best deck in the game, and you should start learning it, because if you want to play this in seasonals, have the best decks for seasonals, you gotta learn it eventually. So might as well start now. And number 7 is Lee Uxin. I think this recently just won a tournament this last weekend. Very good. We got Novotix over here, top player. Apatu, top player. It's Ace, for those of you who don't know. Apatu, Ace. Extremely good player. Probably like the best ladder player in the world playing this deck right now. So very good. I think it won a tournament this weekend. I think Salty Simon, I know Salty Simon at least brought it to made it to the finals. I don't know if he actually won the tournament or not, or if he lost to Scouts, but definitely is still very good. It's probably the best Lee Sin deck right now. It's one of the best Uxin decks, which Uxin's been a debate on if he's broken or not. I think a lot of people have finally come to realize that Uxin is extremely strong. And it's basically this deck and then like a Noxus Uxin deck that people are saying is the best deck in the game. Which I don't think that's true. I think that's a pretty big title to have, but I definitely could see it being the best Uxin deck in the game, the Noxus version compared to this. But yeah, that's very just standard like Lee Sin deck. You play Absolver once you level your Uxin, you get to play. I know some decks are playing like one of Shurima Telstone, some decks are playing let me see what the rank 1 person's playing. Yeah, this is more what I'm standardly seeing. Like you see a Rite of Callings here. Some of them see like one of Shurima Telstones, because it can find you the 7 mana card of Spirit Fire, so it can help you against aggro decks where they just go like super wide. You can Spirit Fire them, and then it's a miniature board wipe. Granted, it costs 8 mana, but you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, you know. So I think this deck is extremely strong if you like Lee Sin decks. If you like pink decks, I don't think this deck's going to get touched much in the patch either, again, unless there's just some major Ionia nerf, which I don't really see that happening unless it's to like Telstones or something, or basically Homecoming. Then yeah, I think this deck's gonna still be extremely popular and be really good for seasonals. And number 8 is a brand new deck that kind of came out of nowhere, really dominated over in the APAC region, and then slowly trickled into other regions. Now it's just taken over NA ladder. Like, I think if I were to switch to the last 2 days, I would think Nora Heimer would have an insane play rate for America's ladder. Like, be really, yeah, it's literally the 3rd most played deck in the last 2 days, like more than Kenneth Ezreal by a whole percentile. Like, this deck has kind of just taken over, really, NA ladder and become really popular, spilling over from APAC. And I think the reasoning is because it has a good pirate matchup. I think it theoretically has a good pirate matchup and has a good Ezreal Kennen matchup. Yeah, right here, pirates, Kennen, Ezreal, it's about 60-40. And when that's like a majority of ladder, then you're feeling pretty good playing this deck. It's bad matchups for those of you wondering, because it is kind of a newer deck. so not everything's too known. Bad matchups look to be like timelines, board wipe, really anything that has keywords. So there's a lot of debate on whether this deck's actually good, and this is my stance on it. Sometimes I smoke the deck and it's not even close. Sometimes the deck beats me, but it does seem very close. I think the deck is good if your opponent doesn't have board wipes, like ways to clear the board, doesn't have units with keywords. So if your opponent can't interact with your board, and if your opponent doesn't have units with keywords like Overwhelm, Fearsome, Elusive, then this deck is really good. And so that fits into the category of like pirates. You see here, it's like pirates, for the most part, Nightfall, where is it? The like Kenneth Ezreal, the like Ionia decks can't really deal with these like super swarmy, go wide, like huge sneezy Biggle Dust turns very often. But the decks that do well into it's like, oh, look at this, a deck with a bunch of board wipes. Oh, look at this, a deck full of Fearsome and Overwhelm units. It's like, oh, look at this, a deck that just plays like ginormous units that probably have keywords because, you know, timelines. On top of, oopsies, I have a bunch of removal spells. You know, it's just like, oh, infinite because you can't apply like a super pressure. Oh, you know, deck that has a bunch of keywords. It's like Overwhelm and, you know, stuff like that. So very much comes down to just, can your opponent oh, it's like, oh, this deck too, because it has Overwhelm and Fearsome, or Pike, just right, it clears your board. So really, I think it's very much a meta call. I don't know how much this deck will stay in the meta once Pirates and Kenneth Ezreal kind of phase out, or people realize that some of these other decks are really good, like Gwen Katarina. But right now, it's popping up and it's kind of taking over NA ladder. So if you're looking at how to beat this deck, there you go. Gwen Katarina, timelines, all this stuff over here that you see, all this stuff beats it. So pick one of these up and have your free wins, buddy. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Let's go and look at the win rates, the highest win rates. But I think it's just gonna be, yeah, it's just the top 3 decks here of Kenneth Ezreal, Pirates, and TF Nami, all extremely highly played decks. So no surprise there. They're still insanely strong. Nothing new to really talk about. But that's going to be it for this Meta Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, again, make sure to leave a like, a comment down for the algorithm, all that type of stuff, and join the Discord. And the link is in the description. People are in there talking about, you know, competitive LoR stuff all the time. Like, look, I'll show you some of my Discord. It looks like here. So people are constantly in here talking about like, oh, I just hit diamond. Just like someone yesterday, I think it was like, yeah, like this person like just hit diamonds, like, or no, just hit master, sorry. You know, they're super excited about it. Someone else in here yesterday or the day before just hit diamond and they were super happy about it. So it's a lot of people asking about like, oh, what would you do in this situation? A lot of people will be in here asking about like, what decks do you want to play, or like, can you help me you know, learn this deck? Is anyone streaming? So people in there are extremely helpful. Best place for competitive LoR by far. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a nice day. See you in the next video.